Cherrytree Pop Shop Minute. Roll me,
This is Arjan Wrights, music blogger, and I'm here for Cherrytree Pop Shop with Adam Enders, executive music producer for Glee. So I'm very excited to be talking with you. I'm a big pop fan. I'm a big fan of your work and what you've been doing. Where did you grow up in Sweden?
I was in Stockholm. That's where I was born, and we were there for a few years. And then I was very young, about 3 years old. We started coming to the U.S. for the winters because my parents were musicians, and they traveled a lot, and they wanted out of Sweden when it got cold. So we started coming over here. So I kind of went back and forth my whole life.
So you grew up on both sides of the Atlantic. Do you think that you took some of those Swedish sensibilities in music, and did you combine it with anything that you took from stuff that you heard here in the States?
Yeah, I think you know, harmony and singing in groups and stuff is a big part of the Swedish culture, whether it's in church or in schools, whatever, choirs and like Glee clubs, we don't call them that, but that's a very big part of the Swedish culture. A lot of singing goes on, and I think that's also part of why music is a big thing there. And bringing that to pop music, you know, and I kind of had my first break with Backstreet Boys, which I was very well suited for because of the harmonies that they were doing and just that sense of how to utilize all those voices. So I think I brought definitely that Swedish harmonic sensibility with me.
How you got the Glee gig was through an assignment from Ryan Murphy, right?
Yeah, it was funny because I'd met with Ryan a couple months prior to that, and I went in to meet him, and it didn't go very well. Actually, he claims that he hired me on the spot, but I went in and met with him, and I think he was concerned because I'd just done High School Musical 3. But that was a task I'd been given, so that was what it was. But he wanted Glee to be so different from that. So a couple months went by, and I think he tried the process and was learning kind of what he wanted. And then he called me on a Friday and said, "All right." You know, and I think I'd said some things that had stuck with him. You know, and my main vision for Glee was it cannot be karaoke, and that's kind of what I had left him with. Meaning, I feel it should be records. Everything needs to sound like it could be on radio, and be true to the originals, like, you know, as good if possible as the originals and not some cheap imitation. And I think that stuck with him. So then he called me on the Friday and he said, I want to hear Amy Winehouse, Rehab Monday. You know, and if it's kind of what we talked about, then the job's yours. And obviously he liked what he heard. And honestly, it's been an amazing, 2 years because we've done, over 250 songs now. And I can remember 2 songs that we haven't agreed on.
Wow. Which
is pretty incredible. We really are on the same wavelength.
How does the process work with Glee? Do you get a script a few weeks in advance and then you pick the songs? How does that work?
That's mostly Ryan, because he's in there in the, wherever they write the scripts, kind of slotting songs in that he thinks might work. That's kind of his, huge contribution to this thing. He has the final say on every song that goes on Glee, whether I suggested something or not. But for the most part, when they write the scripts, they slot songs in, and I get a list, and he says go.
What does a typical day look like for you?
My day starts about 7 a.m., usually with my son on my lap, Skyping with Sweden, drinking coffee, listening to mixes, because they mix during the night when I'm asleep. And then I wake up and I make my comments.
They mix in Sweden?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
every
okay.
song's mixed in Sweden.
So it's really a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, so I go to bed, midnight, 2 a.m., whenever I can get to bed as early as I can. The last thing I do is my assistant uploads everything we've worked on during the day. And then my partner takes that and starts, mixing while I'm asleep. And when I wake up, we have mixes to listen to, we check them, and then we okay them and print them and send them off to be filmed.
Glee means a lot to a lot of young people. Mm-hmm. It gives people hope, encouragement. It helps a lot of young kids through tough times. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you as an artist, that you are able to do that for people?
It's really kind of humbling, the whole thing. And I know how much music meant to me as a kid. I was at this Grammy function yesterday, and there was a bunch of kids we were speaking to, and seeing the reaction from these kids. I don't get to see that. I work in a vacuum, Mm-hmm. And I was there with Red One and Jimmy Jam and all these guys I look up to, and the kids were just going nuts about Glee. I'm like, I'm more interested in what's going on over here, but it means so much to them, and you're just blown away by it. Honestly, you can't really put into words.
Is there any song throughout your, looking back at your career, any song or maybe a couple songs that really are special to you that you think, wow, I'm so happy I wrote that?
There was a song I did with CeCe Winans called "For Love Alone" that won. The song won a couple. Well, the record won a couple Grammys, but that was a special record. I think just working with her. So that was one. I think more than that, with the Backstreet Boys was a pretty huge thing for me. I remember writing that lyric in a hotel room and calling my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, and saying, "Does this suck?" Then a few months later, I'm watching MTV and stuff and see this crowd singing those lyrics back to the Backstreet Boys as they're performing it, and it was a big hit. And I'm just thinking, I just wrote with a pen in a hotel room with my guitar, and it was just crazy. So that was pretty special.
What do you think makes a great pop song?
You know, I think for me there's two things. One, if I've heard it once, can I sing something back to you? Can I remember something? And two, can that song be stripped down to one instrument and be just as good? That's my criteria, anyway, when I write a song. If you have to just have tons of production to play, and like Lady Gaga's a great example, Poker Face, where we just did it with piano, and it was amazing. You know, that's just a testament to a great song.
Right. So what is next for you?
I have a couple artists signed to my company, and if I'm going to write right now, I want to write with my artists and help them, and it's a really fun thing for me to develop, you know, younger artists that I think are talented, and now I have resources to help them and bring them along, and it's really exciting.
Well, thank you very much. It was great learning about your creative process. You're growing up in Sweden and the US, and learning a little bit more about how Glee works and what the incredible job you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the great music.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Web cards up. Good show. Great job, everyone. Fade a logo.